like and subscribe. What is the most disturbing thing to know? That the adults don't know what's going on either. Cruise liners all have morgue for all the passengers that inevitably die each trip. What an odd way to describe the ocean. I worked as a palliative carer for about 3 years. I looked after terminally ill people who had chosen to die at home after being discharged from hospital. After a while, you learn some telltale signs that people are deteriorating. After a bit longer, you start to learn how long people generally have left, even down to a few hours. I always went with honesty. I felt it was my job to support the patients' families as well as the patients, so if they asked how long I thought they had left, I would answer honestly, obviously with the disclaimer that I wasn't a doctor and I could only base it on my previous experiences. The wife of one of my patients told me that their children, adults, were visiting the following weekend to say their goodbyes. I had to decide carefully on what to say next, but I ultimately chose to recommend that they visit the following day, at the latest. I regretted saying it, because she was devastated. She took my advice and her husband passed away peacefully 48 hours later, after seeing his kids. I'm glad I did it, but upsetting that lady was absolutely gut-wrenching. Some people didn't want to know, and it was their right not to know. That was the worst. In those cases, you had to not say anything. Sometimes they'd say see you tomorrow, and I had to reply, yes, have a good night and I'll see you in the morning, knowing full well that they were going to pass in the night. Prions. They are proteins that make normal proteins in your brain fold abnormally, causing neurological decay and various prion diseases. Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease is one example. CJD may occur spontaneously, be inherited, or be transmitted by contact with infected tissue, such as during a transplant, or from eating contaminated meat. Once this starts, it's 100% fatal. Most often within 1 year, you're dead. No cure. You can kill the prion with several hours of heat at 900 F. This obviously kills the person too. Thankfully it's rare. Less than 1,000 cases per year in the US. Still scares the out of me. A manatee vagina is the most anatomically similar to a human one. They are also, though, to be the inspiration for mermaids in folklore. Putting those two facts together makes things really weird and disturbing if you think about it. A Missouri court famously handled the case of Celia, a slave who killed her owner in 1855 while fighting a sexual assault. In such situations, state law considered any woman to be acting in self-defense. However, the court determined that Celia was not a woman in the sense of the law. She was a slave, and her owner had complete control over her. She was given the death penalty by the court. Since she was pregnant, however, her execution was postponed until the child was born, so as not to deprive her owner's successors of their property rights. For another disturbing piece of history, look up the 1918 lynching of Mary Turner in Georgia. If you're named after your father, your mother has probably moaned your name in bed. You never stop seeing. When your eyes are closed, you're just looking at your eyelids. That there is anywhere between 25 to 50 active serial killers in the United States, according to the FBI. Edit, added words. Scrolled a lot and no one mentioned that a tumor can have teeth and eyes. That is something I will never get over. I'm not sure, but it should be called mesothelioma. Edit, look below for the corrected name. It's called a teratoma. They can grow beating heart muscle and hair too. Bonus discomfort, they occur most often in the ovaries and testicles. A brain aneurysm can kill you at any time. I think Arthur C. Clarke said it best. What possibilities exist, either we are alone in the universe, or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. Dolphins' brutality kill baby porpoise for no reason. They do it on purpose. Years ago I remember watching an episode of for the show Monsters Inside Emmy * where the 16-year-old kid was doing something outside, and a fly flew into his eye. It only made contact for about a microsecond, but it was enough time for it to lay eggs. After they hatched, they started eating his eye from the inside, and he was starting to go blind until a doctor finally figured out what was wrong. Just imagine that, getting your eye eaten from the inside, and losing your sight all, because a fly *very* briefly made contact with you. Ever since I learned about this, I get really paranoid when there is a fly around my face, because of the fact that this could possibly happen to me. A raccoon can fit up your if it wanted to, or if you wanted it to. There's millions of little creatures munching on her dead skin every second. The law does not prevent you from doing anything, but it does give consequences if you do. If you want to kill someone, and it's okay with the penalty, you can. How many things let's slip through during security tests? Your bones are wet. There are spiders that capture bats in South America. A cardiac tamponade is when your heart literally chokes itself to death. If a blood vessel inside the pericardium leaks, a tough membrane protecting the heart's pumping, will force blood into the space between itself and the pericardium. As the space fills, the heart can't pump anymore due to a lack of space. It literally drowns in your own blood. That one day everything we know and can imagine will be forgotten. Dog food lid backwards is dildo of God. That this post is going to be a BuzzFeed article in about half a week, and there's nothing you can do about it. Fatal insomnia is a thing. https://n/m wikipedia.org/wiki/fatal_insomnia. That you can have a cancer, but you don't know about it. Ambulances take up to an hour to get to someone in need. Whether it be traffic jams, the aftermath of a disaster, or even people blocking ambulances and their routes. There are about 6 U.S. nuclear weapons that are currently unaccounted for, Broken Arrow, and several times that number missing from Russia. The most disturbing thing I know is that some bodies will flop around when beheaded, and some bodies will go instantly still. Very rough learning that at a young age with unrestricted access to the internet. The number of people older than you decreases each day, and the number of people younger than you increases each day. That hog rectum and calamari are basically indistinguishable in taste and texture. You pass your death date every year. At some point your mom set you down and never picked you up again. IDK about most disturbing but most pre-ground coffee contains a certain amount of roaches and other bugs. When they get the coffee beans in Madagascar, there's so many roaches living in it that it takes too much time and effort to sort them all out. So, a lot of pre-ground coffee is allowed to have a certain amount of roach in it. Now you know why some coffee has so much protein. Candy bars, chocolate, peanut butter. They're all allowed a certain amount of bug parts and rat fur. Nobody has any idea what happens when you die. And at some time, when you're approaching the third act of life, it will hit you. It will hit you that it is approaching. It has got you cornered, and you're not going to know when. Are you ready? Capitan. Babies don't have kneecaps. And neither will the adults, when I'm through with the *RAISES bat. If you see a kangaroo in a river or lake, then don't go/swim to it. It will drown you. Kangaroos are known to be waiting in water for animals to come to them, and then proceed to drown them. Google kangaroo in water/lake and you'll see it sitting there menacingly. If we see a life-threatening meteor is going to strike us in a few years, we probably, at least at the moment, couldn't do anything about it. They've had training simulations with this exact scenario, and they only got it right like 10% of the time. They need more like 10 years to reliably and consistently stop it. Google sexual predators in your area. And you realize just how many sex offenders live pretty close to your family. As a husband and father, I try not to think of it too much. For every 1 human cell in your body, scientists estimate there are 1 to 10 non-human cells. Aka lots of little microorganisms living inside you. You've been visited by the ghost of a very important man. Pay your respects by liking and subscribing, and he'll grant you 3 weeks of good luck.